There are a few more things I want to show you before we actually start on a design. On the right, you have got quick launch tabs. Design overview, resequence, my threads. If you tap on my threads, it opens the current thread chart. And this particular one is Madeira Polyneon. There we go. On the left, you have got various brands of embroidery thread, and you find the one that you use. And I'm looking for the other one that I use. There it is, Kingstar. I'm looking at it and I couldn't see it. And to put it over here, you press the single chevron. There it is on the top of my list. I use Kingstar when I'm using my 15 needle machine because it absolutely adores it. But when I'm using my domestic single needle machine, I use Madeira Polyneon because my little Janome 9900 loves that. So I'm highlighting Kingstar, and I'm using the left facing chevron and popping it back over into the list. So then, before I do that, I don't use manage. The reason being, I own the full complement of Madeira Polyneon, so there's no point in me managing the numbers because I've got the full complement. Okay. Now if I come back over here, see this little icon on this side, and then I come down here, tells me that my thread is hatch. And of course it's not, these are colour thumbs. But I want my colour thumbnails to depict the thread I'm going to be using. So I come back over to my threads, and if I hover my mouse over that icon, it says match all, match my threads to all colour slots in the current colourway. So I click that. This now shows Madeira Polyneon. Now I like more colour threads than that. I'm greedy. I love colour. So let's take a little look here. I quite like that 1827. It will suit the design that I intend to do. So I tap it and I come down to the bottom toolbar and I say add. It puts it on the end. Now I want this greeny colour, 1845, and I tell that add. There it is. Right. Now let's move the slider. Here's the slider. Come down through and find a few other colours. Oh, that's a nice colour. Got a thing about turquoise. Yeah, I like that. And I want some reds and yellows. And they're down the bottom. The colour bar changes when you tap on certain colours. Well, all the colours. I want a gold, and I want 1955. That's 1965, so it'll be a bit lower down. There it is. 1955, add. Now you can see all the warm colours, the yellows, the oranges, the reds are at the top. Okay. 1965, I've already got a sort of orange. 1678, add that one. And because that's sort of the start of the reddish colours, the reds now are at the top. 1837. Yeah, why not? Add. Oh, it's not too different from number 35, is it? Let's click on that one. There it is there. I want something much brighter than that. Not bright, redder. The trouble is you never really get a true... Right, now if you double left click on a colour tab, it alters the one that you clicked on down here. As I was saying, you never really get a true image, what was this one, 1838, of your colour on your computer screen, unless you're prepared to sit there and calibrate your colours, which unless you're a photographer, I wouldn't advise you to do. It's a long, tedious process. We'll go for this one. Tell it add. Yes. And now I want a brown. That one. And I think I'll call that a day. Right, so when you want to add a colour, go over to your thread chart. You find the colour you want, you've got the numbers. Most colour charts have got their names, but the names are purely arbitrary. You'll notice mine doesn't have them. That's because I have got a different Madeira chart. Mine includes rayon as well as polyneon. Okay, I'm going to add that one. I've highlighted it. I tap the add and it puts it on. To get rid of a colour, you tap it and you say remove, and it removes from the end of your colour bar. Now I'm going to return this to the quick launch tab. There we go. Okay, I'm going to go to edit, object properties. Now, there are no objects in my hoop yet, so it's not really displaying anything except my last choice in the last design that I did. But this and your toolboxes, especially your digitize toolbox, work together. And then there's one more, and that's on the quick launch tabs, resequence. And there's nothing in here yet, because I don't have any objects and I don't have an image. I want to go now and pick up an image to digitize. So I'm going up onto my top alpha toolbar, and I can do it through this toolbox. I'll show you the toolbox. Insert artwork, scan artwork, edit, prepare, save, dim, lock, unlock all. Okay, I'm lazy. Artwork. It takes me straight to the folder where my artwork is. And there it is. And I'm going to say open. And immediately you can see it's miles too big. Now this is a 170 by 200 hoop. Do I really want it to be that big? Actually, yes, I would love it to be that big. But I have a feeling most people would prefer something smaller. So I'm going to change my hoop size to 140 by 140. Now I'm going to tap on this, and if we look up here, this is the context toolbar. Let me just click off of that. This is the standard toolbar. When I click onto the image, watch what happens to the standard toolbar. It becomes a context toolbar. I want to decrease the size of my image. So I come up onto my context toolbar. It tells me its position at X and Y is 0. That's the X, Y coordinates there, and that's 0, right in the middle of my hoop. That is where my needle sits when I put my hoop on my machine, and I own a Janome machine. Now, depending on which machine you've used or you've selected, and I don't know where all the point of origins are on the various machines. I only know my Janome and my Tajima, so I can't tell you where your needle sits in your hoop. That's fine, that's where I want it. It also tells me it's 205, well, we'll say 206 millimeters wide and 167 millimeters tall. So I'm going to tell it I only want it 130 wide. That gives me a safety margin of 10 millimeters. Now, because this padlock is locked, it gives me proportional scaling, which is fine. So I hit enter, and there it is sitting inside of my 140 by 140 hoop. So I right click into that and I tell it lock. This defaults automatically to applique. Over here in the resequence bar you can see my image. It's the top thumbnail. It's got a padlock on it, which means when I go to digitize I can't accidentally move it. I'm going to right click into that and I'm going to say unlock. Click off and I can move that. That's not good. So I come up here, position X 0. And that puts it back into the center of my hoop. So then I right click again and I tell it lock. Now when I tap on it, I can't move it. Now we are actually going to be doing an applique, so it's handy that this has come up. You have an option. If I go into background, I tell it I want custom fabric, browse. Inside of Hatch we have got fabrics. Basic. You've got your various fabrics. So depending on what you're going to be working on, you've got a choice of t-shirt knit, bird's eye. Oh no, that's just a colour. Oh no, it is a type. Don't know what it looks like. It's probably piqué. Then you've got linens, you've got normal knits, and yes, you can embroider on normal knits. I've been a machine knitter for longer than I care to remember, and I used to free motion embroider on my machine knitting. I also used to put machine embroidery designs, free motion machine embroidery designs on hand knits. Then you've got felt, you've got denim, you've got cord. I'm going to go to fabrics and I'm going to go into Benatex. And Benatex offers you patterned fabrics. So maybe you're doing a baby's blanket and you've got a printed fleece or something. You can choose one of these as your background. Maybe I'll go for open. So there it is. I'm going to tell that OK. There is my fabric that I'm using on my blanket, and there's all the bubbles that the fish blow. Now if you don't want that, you just go back and you tell this solid colour and it will get rid of it. Now if you've got a particular fabric that you want to use and you would like it as your background, or even if you would like it as your applique fabric, you can scan it into any graphics handling program that you've got, clip out a portion of it, not too big. Save it as a bitmap, and I'll show you where you have to put it if I can remember the pathway. So I hit File Explorer, I go to Windows C, Program Files 86, I think it's in Wilcom. No, that's not where I want to go. I want to go to Users, Public, Windows Programs. It's terrible when you can't remember things. Users, Public, Public Pictures, Hatch, Fabrics, create a folder, and I'm using Windows 8.1. I believe it's very similar in Windows 10, and it's almost identical to Windows 7. New, where's new folder? Right, I'll right click, new folder. See, it's the same as it was in Windows 7. And I'm going to call this one Mags Fabrics. Click off of it. It's telling me it's empty, which I know because I didn't select fabric. You then pop your fabric that you've saved as BMP into here. I believe it also uses JPGs, which is a member of the bitmap family. And then you close this. Now it won't show up until you close and reopen this program. So we'll pretend for a minute that Benetex is my fabric. So Applique Fabric, Custom, Browse, Seaside Holidays, absolutely perfect. Open. Okay. Now of course it's not going to show up in here because I haven't digitized anything yet. So let's stop. Oh no, I was going to say let's stop yattering and start digitizing. But before I do that, I use pre-cut. You can pre-cut or you can trim in place. If you trim in place, it gives you a placement line, a cutting line. In other words, it provides you with a row of stitching that you can trim right up against. I prefer to pre-cut, so I use pre-cut. And the offset here is if you use the trim in place. It says, how much do you want to offset that? I would ask for at least 1 millimeter if I was doing trim in place. Okay, tack down, zigzag, you can change that. None, well you really do need a tack down. Single run, unless you're going to use something like Wonderweb on the back of your fabric, but then that's only suitable if you're doing pre-cut. So you can have zigzag, single run, blanket, and then zigzag again. Okay. Stitch spacing. I want to know it's going to hold, so I'm going to put mine down to 2.5. It's only 1/2 mil. Makes a difference. Width 2 millimeters. Cover. Now this is your stitch that you use to cover your raw edges. Satin, blanket or zigzag. Now if you're going to use blanket stitch, use either none or single run. Stitch spacing, that's too tight for me. I'm going to go for 0.5. With the correct underlay, that's fine for a satin stitch. Width, I like mine to be reasonably wide. I once made a bumper set for my grandson, and because time was very tight, I actually bought a set of applique. And I did a Noah's Ark, and I watched, horrified, as all my fabrics that I'd chosen for the applique started to fray away. And that was because the design only had a 2mm satin stitch around it, and the main weight of it was on the outside of the applique. Now, your supporting fabric is not going to fray away. Your applique fabric can fray away. I actually prefer the weight of my satin stitching to be on the inside, but just for today I'm going to put it at 50-50. Inside 50%, outside 50%, and a width of 3.5. Okay, now I have definitely spoken too much. Digitize. Nope, wrong one. Applique, Maggie. You're doing applique. Digitize applique. I'm going to manually digitize the fin and the tail, and I will be doing the flippers as applique later. And I'm going to digitize the eyes. Now, I'm not the world's fastest digitizer, so you're going to have to put up with my slowness. I'm a host to a lodger called Arthur. Arthur is arthritis. There we go, and there's my applique fabric. A bit wishy-washy, isn't it? So let's come back up to here and tell it none. Always put it back in later. I should have highlighted first. None. Okay, there we go. Now I'm going to show you the next step in the next video, because I'm very aware that I've talked too much, which means the video is going to be a bit too long. So I'll see you in the next video.